All right, I wanted to share one of my absolute favorite quotes when it comes to work, especially in regards to creating something you love, something you're passionate about. Even if you're never going to be an entrepreneur, that's totally fine. I still encourage you to think deeply about what your craft is, what you enjoy doing, what you're naturally gifted in and skilled in that you'll do for free because you love it so much. That's an indicator that might be what your craft is. So anyways, one of my absolute favorite quotes regarding to creating something is, if people don't either love or hate your work, you just haven't done all that much. If people don't either love or hate your work, you just haven't done all that much. And that's by Tinker Hatfield. So if you don't know who Tinker Hatfield is, I highly recommend you watching, if you have access to Netflix, watching Abstract. It's the name of this docuseries where they highlight a couple of different artists around the world and creators and designers. Tinker Hatfield's one of them. Prior to watching this documentary, I had no idea who Tinker Hatfield was. I never even heard of him before. But when I watched that one episode, that he instantly became one of my favorite designers and entrepreneurs. I consider him an entrepreneur, or an intrapreneur rather, because he worked within Nike. Now, what did Tinker do? Well, two major accomplishments that he did for Nike, which really, in my opinion, and even according to Tinker, Phil would agree, Tinker pretty much almost saved Nike from the brink of destruction, if you want to be dramatic, because he created the first big thing, which is the Nike Air Bubble. The fact that you see in the Air Max shoes, you see the actual exposed Nike bubble. That was the idea from Tinker Hatfield. He was the one that thought about that. He almost got fired because of it, because his superiors on the design team thought that he was crazy, and they hated it so much that they were pushing for him to get fired, because they thought that if we build this shoe with the exposed air bubble, it's going to tank the company and it's going to be Tinker's fault. Let's fire Tinker. We need to fire Tinker. Thank God Phil did not fire. Phil Knight, the founder of Nike, did not fire Tinker Hatfield. They stuck with his design. It did the exposed bubble, and that became the Nike Air Bubble that everybody famously knows about and sees and enjoys. But the main thing that he's known for is he's also the brilliant designer behind the entire Air Jordan empire. Yes, that's right. So I think it was like the second or third Air Jordan shoe that he was responsible for designing. And then basically the rest of the history is in the making, with him designing for the next almost 20 years, year after year, new designs and all this stuff, working closely with MJ and constantly putting out more and more of the entire Air Jordan franchise, more shoes and all that stuff. But that was Tinker Hatfield's work. That was his design. That was his stuff. And not everybody loved every single shoe that he released. Some people hated it. Some people loved it. But he was willing to take risks. He was willing to work hard, to hone his craft, do his best to solve problems, and then create things. So again, if you have access to Netflix, I highly recommend watching that one episode of Tinker Hatfield, because I think it's important for you and for me, who are going to be taking the risks, who are going to muster up the courage to do our best work, to create things that we love doing, to take our craft and to hone it, to sharpen it, to refine it, and then to actually put it out into the world. And again, it doesn't have to be a business, but maybe you're a musician, maybe you love music, or maybe you're a singer, or maybe you're a chef or a cook, or maybe you're an artist, you like painting, or maybe you work with wood, or whatever it is you love doing. That is your craft. If you and I are going to have the courage and the discipline to hone our crafts and then actually do the work and put it out there to the world, just be prepared and know that, some people are going to absolutely love the work that I do, but some people are absolutely going to hate it. They're going to hate my work and think it's stupid and think I'm wasting my time. That's fine. Where you and I do not want to be is if we're going to be taking our craft seriously and we're going to be trying to push the boundaries of what we're fully capable of and what our truest potential is. If we're going to really achieve our highest and truest and fullest potential in our craft, where we don't want to be is creating things and then it's just people are just kind of indifferent. Like there's no love and there's no hate regarding our work. It's just kind of like meh. Because if we get that kind of response, then maybe we need to ask ourselves, are we really truly doing our best work? Have we really done all that much, as Tinker Hatfield says, or are we not? Are we kind of holding back? Are we not really pushing ourselves to really move the needle on things? So anyway, something to consider. Also, I want to share one more thing, a reason why I absolutely love that quote by Tinker Hatfield, because again, I had no idea who Tinker Hatfield was before I heard or watch that episode on Abstract, that docuseries on Netflix I was mentioning. Well, I kid you not, that when I watched that, it had just come out. I think it was back in 2018, or I think maybe 2019. But I watched that episode, was so inspired. For one, I was living in Portland, Oregon at the time still, and Tinker Hatfield's from Portland, or lives in Portland. And then Nike, obviously the Nike headquarters is in Beaverton, which is right next to Portland, for those of you who don't know. But at the time, I was still driving for Uber and Lyft, and it was Holy Week. And I think it was like a Holy Thursday. And so I was heading home from church after the morning service, and I was going to do a few things. But I thought, let me take one more ride. I'll set my address, to drive home. And then, if I get any passengers, I'll do another ride. Well, this is about maybe 4 days after I watched that episode on Tinker Hatfield. I kid you not, I'm in the church parking lot. I turn my app on to start driving home, and I get a request. And the only name that pops up on my phone is Tinker. It's just one name. I was like, that's interesting. Tinker, I only heard that word once, that name once, and that's from, Tinker Hatfield. I just learned about this guy, less than a week ago. That'd be funny because Tinker lives here in Portland somewhere. It'd be hilarious if I'm picking up Tinker Hatfield, but, probably not going to happen. Lo and behold, I pull up, it's Tinker Hatfield. I'm blown away. And so I'm taking him across town towards Nike. And so he and I, because we're stuck in traffic, he's in my car for almost an hour. I didn't geek out because I don't really get starstruck, but I was just blown away because I just learned about this guy less than a week ago and was completely inspired and blown away, especially because prior to watching that episode, I'd read maybe a couple months before, Phil Knight, who's the founder of Nike. I read his big autobiography, which is literally this thick. It's like a dictionary, and definitely worth reading or listening to, especially for an entrepreneur. But here I am in the hometown of Nike. I understand. I've read through the entire autobiography of Phil Knight about one of my, the biggest brands on earth. Just learned about Tinker Hatfield, and now I have him sitting in my backseat as my passenger. And so we had a wonderful conversation. I was able to ask him, different questions, but I didn't tell him that I knew who he was. Just like I said, I don't really get, starstruck or anything like that. I don't do any kind of hero worship or anything. And so I was able to have, fascinating conversation with him and ask him different things. And then at the very end, right before I dropped him off, I said, by the way, are you Tinker Hatfield? And he was blown away because he's like, yeah, how'd you know who I am? I was like, I just watched the documentary about you literally less than a week ago. And that episode really inspired me for a lot of reasons. I'm, an entrepreneur. I'm building my own business. And I appreciate, how you ended that episode by saying, if people don't either love or hate your work, you just haven't done all that much. I said, that really struck me. And it's definitely going to be one of my favorite quotes, for the rest of my life. And he was blown away and really grateful because he said, that's interesting that you mentioned that. He's like, I'm really glad that you enjoyed the series, because I didn't want to do that documentary because I did not want it to be about me. If I was going to do it, then I was going to do it highlighting Nike. I just did not really feel comfortable doing that documentary, especially if it was going to be highlighting me as Tinker Hatfield. And he's like, but they reassured me, the creators reassured me that it wouldn't be really highlighting me. It'd be more about Nike and the work. And so I reluctantly did it at the encouragement of some friends and family. He's like, and I'm glad I did. He's like, and thank you for sharing that with me, because it reassures me that what I did, agreeing to do this documentary was the right decision. So I'm glad it helped you and inspired you, and I hope it inspires other people too. So anyways, that is another reason why I absolutely love that one episode, especially in that series, and especially that quote, because it really is appropriate for us who are going to have the courage to put in the work, to put in the time to really hone and refine our craft, and then put out that work into the world. And hopefully, if we've done our best work, if we're finding the work that we absolutely love doing, we're really tapping into our craft and honing it, hopefully the response will be people are either going to love it or they're going to absolutely hate it. And that's where we want to be. I'm David Jeremiah. Hope you all having a good day. God bless you. See you next time.